let's talk about Abbey Road.
It's a masterpiece, but ultimately it was the end of the band.
And that is exactly the tension, isn't it? Because when you listen to Abbey Road, you hear this sonic monolith. It sounds so polished.
So cohesive, like they were completely locked in with each other.
But if you actually peel back the layers, the reality of what was happening behind the glass was, well, it was a total minefield.
It's the ultimate paradox. You have this incredible sound, maybe the best production they ever had, but it's just masking this complete personal disintegration.
So where do you even start to understand that?
I think you have to look at one specific day, September 8th, 1969.
Okay, so set the scene. Where are we in the timeline?
Well, the heavy lifting on the album is done. It's basically finished. The release is still about 3 weeks away, and this is normally the time they'd be, celebrating.
We survived another album party.
Exactly. But the vibe at the Apple offices on Savile Row is just toxic. They gather for a meeting, and John Lennon doesn't walk in to celebrate. He walks in to propose a divorce.
And he actually used that word, right? Divorce.
He did. Think about the weight of that. He didn't say, I'm quitting. He framed it like a marriage was ending.
A total severing of ties.
But here's the fascinating part. Before he got to the finality of it, he proposed this new system. He called it his equal rights system.
Equal rights. That sounds democratic on the surface.
On the surface, yeah. But what he was really asking for was to strip Paul of his leadership role.
Because Paul had really been driving the bus since Brian Epstein died.
Oh, completely. He was the one pushing for a magical mystery tour for Sgt. Pepper. John wanted that to end. He proposed a rigid system. 4 songs for him, 4 for Paul, and 4 for George.
4 songs each. That sounds so bureaucratic for a rock band.
It was. And 2 for Ringo, if he had them.
So was this a genuine attempt to save the band? Or something else?
The thinking now is that it was a strategy to force an exit. You make a demand, the other person will say no to.
So you have an excuse to walk away.
Exactly. He knew Paul would never agree to limit himself to 4 songs. He was just too prolific. So Jonah was sort of checking out before he actually left.
And that friction, that wasn't just in the boardroom. You can hear it on the album itself.
Oh, you can. That's where you get this battle of 2 philosophies.
The tape versus scissors conflict. Break that down.
Okay, so it's the perfect way to visualize it. On one side, you have Paul. He's still thinking in Sgt. Pepper terms.
The grand concept.
He wants a mini opera, a symphonic suite. He wants to take all these little pieces and create a continuous flow. That's the tape philosophy, splicing things together to make something beautiful.
And John is the scissors.
John is 100% the scissors. He's moving into his Plastic Ono Band phase. He wants brutal honesty. He wants statements, not puzzles.
And he hated the medley on side 2, didn't he?
He called it junk, and granny music. He despised it. He actually wanted his songs all grouped on one side of the record and Paul's on the other. A physical separation.
That would have been a totally different album, like 2 solo EPs.
It would have been. And the thing is, the medley was born out of necessity. They had all these little song fragments that weren't finished.
Bits and pieces.
Exactly. You never give me your money, Polythene Bama. None of them could really stand alone. So Paul, the architect, decided to stitch them all together.
So it's the ultimate musical recycling project.
In the best way possible. And it worked. But if you want to hear John's philosophy in action, just listen to the end of side 1. I want you. She's so heavy.
That track is an absolute beast. It's just relentless.
It is. It's almost 8 minutes. It builds and builds this wall of sound, this heavy riff, and then what happens at the end?
It just stops, cuts off.
It snaps. Like someone took a pair of scissors and just severed the tape. That's John's aesthetic.
Yeah.
Brutal. No pretty fade out.
While Paul is all about the transition, the tape.
So the medley itself became a metaphor for the band. It's just broken pieces held together by tape, pretending everything's fine.
That's powerful. But while John and Paul are fighting over tape and scissors, there's a third person who's just quietly having the year of his life.
The quiet Beatles starts making some serious noise.
We have to talk about George Harrison, because on this album, something really shifts.
You absolutely cannot talk about Abbey Road without saying that the 2 best songs on the entire record came from George.
Something. And Here Comes the Sun.
No question.
And Something became a massive standard. I mean, Frank Sinatra called it, was the quote.
Sinatra called it the greatest love song ever written, although he also used to introduce it as his favorite Lennon-McCartney song.
Ouch, that must have stung.
I know, but the song was undeniable, and the irony is he wrote it for Pattie Boyd while their own marriage was falling apart.
So how did John and Paul react to this? I mean, George was finally bringing A-plus material.
They recognized it, but almost as a threat. There's audio of Paul saying that George's songs weren't that good until this album.
That's such a backhanded compliment, isn't it? You're finally good enough for us.
It's an admission and an insult all at once. But George wasn't the little brother anymore.
He'd been hanging out with Eric Clapton, with Dylan.
Right. He saw how other world-class musicians treated him as a peer. He knew he didn't need the Beatles anymore. He had already quit once, remember, during the Get Back sessions.
That's right, the see you around the clubs moment.
So by the time Abbey Road happens, his whole mindset is different. It's, I'm not a hired hand, respect me or I'm gone. The whole power dynamic had shifted.
And then there's Here Comes the Sun, which feels like a burst of light.
And think about where it is on the album. Side 1 ends with that brutal cut from John's song. You flip the record, and the first thing you hear is George's acoustic guitar. It's sunshine after a storm.
Speaking of the album's flow, we have to talk about that strange little song at the very end, Her Majesty. Was that planned?
It feels so accidental. It is probably the most famous happy accident in rock history.
So what happened?
Well, the working title for the medley was The Long One. In the original rough draft, Her Majesty was stuck right in the middle between Mean Mr. Mustard and Polythene Pam.
So it wasn't supposed to be a hidden track?
Not at all. It was part of the suite, but they listened back and it didn't work. It killed the momentum. So Paul, ever the perfectionist, just said, throw it away. It's garbage.
Just cut it out.
Yep. But the junior engineer, John Kurlander, had been trained with one golden rule at EMI Studios. Nothing gets erased. Ever.
Thank goodness for that rule.
Absolutely. So he cuts the track out, but instead of throwing it in the bin, he splices it to the very end of the master reel with about 20 seconds of silent meter tape in between.
Just to keep it safe.
Just to store it. But later, when they were playing the master back for Paul, they get to the end of the medley. There's the big finale of the end, then silence, and then suddenly.
Yeah, Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl.
Exactly. And that big crashing chord at the start, that's the leftover final chord from Mean Mr. Mustard because he hadn't cleaned up the edit yet.
So it's literally a mistake.
It's a glorious mistake. And Paul heard it pop up out of the silence and he just loved the randomness of it. He said, keep it just like that.
It basically invented the idea of the hidden track.
It did. It gives you this little secret at the end.
But before we get to that secret, we get the track that's actually called The End. And for me, this is the most beautiful and heartbreaking moment on the album.
It's the moment where they finally communicated again.
The guitar duel.
Yeah. I mean, for months, all they did was shout at each other or sit in icy silence.
Yeah.
But for this one moment, they decided to trade solos.
And it's so structured, isn't it?
Incredibly. It's Paul, then George, then John. Each one gets 2 bars. Paul plays, passes it to George. George plays, passes it to John. They go around 3 times.
It's a conversation.
It's the musical democracy that John had been demanding in the boardroom finally happening on the studio floor. And you can hear their personalities.
How so?
Paul starts. His playing is clean, melodic, almost perfect. Then George comes in, soaring, soulful, lyrical. And then John. John's part is distorted, fuzzy, aggressive.
But they don't step on each other.
They're listening. That's the whole point. For those few minutes, the fighting stopped. They just played.
It's like when they stopped talking and just played music, they were still the best in the world.
Untouchable. And then it all resolves into that beautiful piano line.
And in the end?
The love you take is equal to the love you make.
Just a perfect line.
It is. And even John, who hated Paul's sentimental stuff, admitted that line was perfect. He said it was a cosmic law. He couldn't argue with it.
So the album ends on this beautiful universal truth. The listener thinks, wow, this band is at its peak.
And that's the tragedy. The timing is just brutal. 6 days before Abbey Road even came out, September 20th, John made it official.
He called the meeting.
He called the meeting and said, I want a divorce. He said Paul was talking about future plans, another tour maybe, and John just snapped and said, I think you're daft. I'm leaving.
But the public had no idea. The album comes out, goes to #1.
And they all agreed to keep it quiet for business reasons. Their manager, Alan Klein, told them not to say a word. So John had to sit on the biggest news in music history.
Which leads to the final petty twist in the story.
Right. Because John isn't the one who gets to announce it.
Who does?
Paul does.
That-
April 1970, he puts out his first solo album with a self-interview in the press kit saying the Beatles are done. And John was furious.
Why? It's what he wanted.
Because Paul beat him to the punchline. It was pure ego. John wanted to be the one to drop the bomb.
It's just so messy.
So when you listen to Abbey Road now, it's a paradox. It's the most polished, cohesive album they ever made, created by four men who could not stand to be in the same room.
It's like the medley itself was this desperate attempt to tape the whole brotherhood back together.
That's it, exactly. They taped the songs together because they couldn't write together anymore. And in doing so, they taped the band together for just 16 minutes on side 2. It was proof they could still be the Beatles, even when they weren't friends anymore.
That's silence after the end. And then Her Majesty pops up. It's almost like they were fighting against the silence.
And the silence won. But what a fight it was.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, visit us at BeatlesRewind.com. It's the Beatles, all day, every day, 8 days a week. Cass will do it again tomorrow.
Absolutely. See you then.
Until next time, when you listen.
Your mind conducts its own symphony.